Happiness cannot be stitched to a quilt.
Three, two, one, action.
Welcome to First Shots 5. Good evening to all and welcome to First Shots 5. Before we proceed, I am Ganga and I'm the Marketing Director of First Shots as well as your host for today. Now before we begin and we advance on to our main event, our highly anticipated film screening event, let me walk you through our physical booth located right here, right outside Republic Polytechnic's E2 building. I'm sure you guys are all curious to see what it entails. Let's go! As you can see right here is the whole physical setup. This is undeniably one of the best eye-catching showcases I have seen. From the wild patch lighting onto the ground, reflecting onto those empty walls, lathering them with vibrant mixes of purple and blue. Any colors, you name it, you get it. Now, let us show you a 360 view of what our booth looks like. Come on. This setup right here was an initiative from the Diploma of the Arts and Theatre Management who managed to create First Shots ambitious into a reality. Now, we shall show you our 360 view. This right here is a collaboration from the DATM department to help support and grow First Shots ambitious into a reality. However, this isn't the attention that we want to get. The attention we want to pull it to is this. Our iconic spaceman riding on a skateboard. Designed and originally digitally created by one and only graphic designer in this year's First Shots 5 Africa. This iconic design is the only landmark that has created a presence in the whole of First Shot's career. Now that we've completed our walkthrough, it is finally time for our highlighted event, our film screening event. This year, out of the 132 films selected, 14 were of individual works, 2 of which were made by groups of 4. Now, I shall pass my time to our reporters Martin and Rachel, who will cover the interview segment of this year's event. Hey Martin!
Hi Ganga, thank you so much for the walkthrough of our set.
No problem, Martin. Say Martin, are you curious to watch and learn more about each film?
Yes, I am indeed. From the snippets that I've seen of the different films from the official trailer, I'm indeed very curious to learn more about the different plots and also the visions that the filmmakers have that they incorporated in their films. Yeah. Say, Ganga, how do you feel about this year's First Shots being a live stream event as well as the entrance of E2 being decked up with all the new First Shots 5 branding?
Actually, I feel very proud of our team for finding alternative solutions to keep First Shots up and running for the 5th year in a row, and to not only showcase our raw first works made by year ones this year, but also a full-work film by a student from X3 and a submission made by an RP lecturer in this year's open category. I think the expansive range of film submissions is what makes this year's theme of Rise Above even more efficient.
Yes, I definitely agree. This year's set design is surely impressive thanks to the helping hands of the DATM students from the Stagecraft module and the lecturer, Mr. Toh Min Chuan. With that aside, I'll now take it from here to continue with the interview segments with the different filmmakers.
Hey Nadra, thank you so much for making it down for today's interview session, and we are so happy that your film Who Am I is part of this year's First Shots. What was your vision and message for your film?
I think the main vision that I had for my film was to mainly express the themes that were in the poem, but in my own perspective. So I really hope that when the audience watch my film, they can understand where I'm coming from and the vibe that I tried to deliver. Yeah.
What was your most enjoyable moment/memory throughout making your whole entire poetry film?
I think the best part of the whole process was that I was able to learn a new skill since it's my first time animating, and that I was able to work at my own pace, which I really enjoyed. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing with me your insights about your poetry film journey. And without further ado, is Who Am I by Nadra Amelia.
Yes.
Always the same route over and over again. We are always doing the same thing. Can you imagine repeating the same thing every day? Tired, really tired. But no choice lah. Gotta, you know. Under the rain, also no way out, no shelter, no anything. Just keep working. I want someone to listen to me, but no one notice my presence. Staying quiet forever alone, I can only comfort myself. Sometimes I think about my family, then start the day again. They are my motivation. Form affair, but sometimes I really can't help but know to set a tear. I see people I also hold no hope they won't understand. Nowadays, young people all internet. They see what's on top, they follow. I know because I am a scarecrow in the foreign land.
Hi Hazik.
Hello.
Hi. The First Shots committee really enjoyed your film, and we felt like it really embodied the theme for this year. So, how does it feel like for you to have produced the film individually?
It was quite tough, especially because it was meant to be team work, and then later got changed to individual work. Mm-hmm. And because my film is animation, so it's especially hard for me. Yep.
And then, how do you mind telling me the synopsis of your film?
So basically, the main character wears a mask and goes onto stage in the hopes to entertain the audience. But then he makes a fool of himself and the audience laughs at him. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, the mask makes him look like he's still smiling. And then he goes through his own mind and realizes that he doesn't need the mask because it is damaging his image or his personality. Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing with us about the insights on your poetry film journey. And without further ado, this is The Mask by Hazik Anaki.
Which road should I take? Is it left or right? Others see straight paths, yet my vision, twisted knots. Intention unclear, confusion, a maze. Destination blurred, lake water, wearing clothes, a stranger. A smile costly fabricated, paid by applause. Every wink of these lips, unfamiliar thoughts. Dancing in the crowd, playing somebody, a role behind the curtain, a lost soul. Approval from others, chained by validation, a slave for attention. My own judgment, a prison. When will I be me? Shall I forever be a liar to myself? An imposter of my own shadow.
Hi Erin, we are so glad to have your film Breaking Barricade in this year's rendition of First Shots. Is this the first time working on a film with students?
Alright, so this is not the first time that I've worked on a film with students. We have actually worked on a few different films that we have put out for the Singapore Mental Health Film Festival. But I would say that this is the first film that we have done that was filmed totally in RP, on RP campus, with the crew and the cast primarily being made up of RP students, and that involved our RP students in many of the different production roles, as well as the crew roles as well. So that will actually be our first. So the students were involved in all the way from let's say the crew. They were involved in the crew. They were involved in also helping us to conceptualize the script, coming up with the art direction, right? And in fact, the students actually suggested using the RP classrooms mainly because of the way that, okay, as you know, as an RP student, you know that our classrooms are a bit claustrophobic. So it kind of brings out that team, and this actually all these ideas all came from the students. So we are very glad to have worked with them on this.
Thank you so much for sharing with me your insights about your film journey. And without further ado, is Breaking Barricades by Erin and Chen.
Okay, very important for your exams. All right, get the equations correct. Make sure you know how to derive the equations from here. All right, this is very important. Take it down. You need to understand how you go from v equals to tangent x, and you get the derivative of secant square x. Okay, I'm going to erase it right now. Okay, so now we're going to start on a new equation. Listen, the guys over there. Okay, important. Listen up. Okay, so you need to understand how you go from v equals to tangent x, and you get the derivative of secant square x, inverse of 1 over cosine square x. Okay, got this? Very important, So you can substitute the values of and you will retrieve this function over here. Right? So this function will then help you to derive further values of this function.
She looks like a
And this function.
Oh my god.
And this function.
That's so creepy.
Now, you will receive the derivative of half tangent square x is a constant.
Hey, are you okay?
Hi, Janine.
Hi.
We are so glad to have your film, The Distance, in this year's rendition of First Shots. So, what was the vision and message for your film?
I felt like the first time I saw the poem, I had the vibe or like the very strong emotions that the man himself that wrote this poem felt very lonely. And that gave me an inspiration to actually follow or direct the film towards the idea of a man feeling unbearable loneliness and false hope for like his lost lover. Yeah.
So, what is some of the challenges that you faced like during the filming process?
There was a lot of restrictions, yeah. So one of them being the settings and the locations for my filming. And I think a lot of it had to do with COVID restrictions as well. Aside from that, it was acting, all the actors that I wanted to cast, especially the main two characters, which is the man and the lost lover herself, and also the editing software. Yeah. Okay, so for the first one, I had to change up the settings for it because I felt like there was a lot of places that were very recognizable for like the general audience. I think the second part for the casting was also quite tough because what I wanted to give off in the film was a genuine relationship and how lovers actually could feel like the strong and real pain of losing one another. So I was lucky enough to find a very nice couple to help me. And for the editing software itself, a lot of it had to do with my laptop also because it was crashing a lot. But I think the final product came out really, really well. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Janine, for sharing with me like your insights and the journey like throughout the process of your filming. And without further ado, this is The Distance by Janine Teng.
All of a sudden, you stopped in the middle of the road, taking your hand away from mine, and turning back, leaving by the opposite direction. The Big Bang and the law of the cosmos begins where everything is moving apart from everything else. In my heart, there's only a sigh. Looking at the sky, I thought, how far is that? Far, but not more than the distance between us. Thousands of miles and more, as far as two planets. far from my sight. Now I cannot speak with you, go towards you, touch you. You are far away from me, this long distance between us. This distance cannot be measured by any scale.
Hey Joshua, we are so glad to have your film Vineyard in this year's rendition of First Shots. What was your vision and message for your film?
This film was very personal, so I would say like this ever-changing society where materialism and social status determines our value as humans, we struggle to show our true selves to the real world in exchange for validation. We forget to look at ourselves and wonder if we are changing society or is society changing us.
What was your most enjoyable memory throughout your filmmaking process?
It would be working with others, like just going out for long hours, trying to determine the film locations, and like the things that I've learned from visual storytelling. I have like understanding of certain shots, creating the plot. It wasn't just me, it was like we had a team and we just threw ideas back and forth, and we slowly narrow it down until we were so damn astounded of how well we thought we put it together, and that accomplishment and everything really makes it enjoyable.
Thank you so much for sharing with me your insights about your poetry film journey, and without further ado, it's Vineyard by Joshua Ong.
Which road should I take? Is it left or right? Others see straight paths, yet my vision twisted knots. Intention unclear, confusion, a maze, destination blurred, lake water wearing clothes, a stranger, a smile costly, fabricated, paid by applause. Every wink of these lips, unfamiliar thoughts. Dancing in the crowd, playing somebody. A role behind the curtain, a lost soul. Approval from others. Chained by validation, a slave for attention, my own judgment. A prison. When will I be me? Shall I forever be a liar to myself? An imposter of my own shadow.
All of a sudden, you stop in the middle of the road, taking your hand away from mine and turning back, leaving by the opposite direction. The Big Bang and the law of the cosmos begins where everything is moving apart from everything else. In my heart, there's only a sigh. Looking at the sky, I thought, how far is that? Far, but not more than the distance between us, thousands of miles and more, as far as 2 planets. Far from my sight, I now cannot speak with you, go towards you, touch you. You are far away from me, this long distance between us. This distance cannot be measured by any scale.
Hi Cherise, we are so glad to have your film, The Singaporean Dream, in this year's rendition of First Shots. What was the most enjoyable moment throughout the making of your poetry film?
I think the most enjoyable moment was actually brainstorming for this film, because I thought all the poetry that they sent to us was very interesting and I felt very intrigued by all of them. But the one that caught my attention was poem number 8, where a migrant worker felt felt like he had no belonging in this country. So I felt this topic really hit home for us, whereby I feel that many Singaporeans cannot seem to find a belonging in this country. So I thought that my idea was very far-fetched. So when I saw it come to life, right, after my whole animation and bloodshed work, I felt very happy. Yeah.
How did it feel working individually to produce your poetry film?
I think this project was meant to be a group work at first. So I actually felt very confident in all my members, as we hold very unique talents, and I felt that we would make a very good team. However, when I got the news that I was supposed to work individually, I felt very lost. But throughout the whole process, I think I met with a lot of hurdles. And when I managed to pull through all of them, I think it was with the help of some of my friends and some of the pointers that they give. Yeah. So overall, the whole process, I felt like pulling my hair out. But when I saw it at the end, I felt very happy. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cherise, for sharing with me your insights about your poetry film journey. And without further ado, it is The Singaporean Dream by Cherise Kwang.
We, the people. Are unsung before the morning flag. Of late, Singapore asked for a pledge. More than a loose filament fist, close over where we carry our hearts. What contracts can we make with each other? When regardless of race, language, we finally whisper a poem, then a song. Exhaustion is our religion. Our migratory bodies must learn that to build is to stand in ourselves. And offer a democratic society where progress and prosperity are weighed in the hands of equality. A base, we are deaf to the story of justice, in which we blow so hard on the flute of achievement that we make no sound of happiness.
Hi, honey.
Hello.
Hi, we're so glad to have your film, Who Am I, in this year's rendition of First Shots. And I want to ask you, what is the synopsis of your film?
Okay, so the synopsis of my film is basically about a person having an identity crisis. So she doesn't know her true self and is constantly getting validation from others. So she basically has some sort of imposter syndrome. So in the film, right, she goes through things which is she saw the goals, and that is basically her other self. It's her facade. So throughout the film is just her looking at her facade and asking herself who am I? Is that her true self, or is it not? So in the end, right, she looks at it and then she still doubts who she is, even though she asked that same question.
And what were some of the challenges you faced while producing your film?
Some of the challenges I faced was that because of the current COVID situation, right, I needed to think of creative ways to film this. So instead of going out, I decided to film at home. So I had to think of other ways to make the film go through what I want it to become, the intended purpose of it. But in the end, I think the interpretation and the meaning of the film still goes through. So I think that's quite good.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Henny, for sharing with me your insights on your poetry film journey. And without further ado, this is Who Am I by Hani Nadia.
Which road should I take? Is it left or right? Others see straight paths, yet my vision twisted knots. Destination blurred, lake water. Wearing clothes, a stranger. Every wink of these lips, unfamiliar thoughts. Dancing in the crowd, playing somebody, a role behind the curtain, a lost soul. Approval from others, chained by validation, a slave for attention, my own judgment, a prison. When will I be me? Shall I forever be a liar to myself? An imposter of my own shadow.
Hey Marvin, thank you so much for making it for this interview session, and we are so happy that your film, Mind Your Head, is part of this year's First Shots. What were some of the challenges that you may have faced during your filmmaking process?
The administration side is a bit more tough, having the right time, right people to do the job.
So, on the contrary, what were some of the most enjoyable moments throughout making your poetry film?
I think there was so many good moments, but I mean there is no one specific moment. I felt like every moment spent doing the film, especially since I did it with friends, right? I think it meant more. And I think having a source or like a medium to put my work, especially like on YouTube and Instagram, where everything's like easily accessible, right? It makes people that support what I do, and especially like trying to be an amateur like filmmaker and a potential like film director myself. I feel like it's easier to put myself out there in a sense. So I mean that's what makes it enjoyable lah. Like people being able to watch what I do, and especially like seeing my parents happy. I think that's the most. I think the post process is. I think it's more enjoyable than doing it. It's like by myself.
Thank you so much for sharing with me your insights about your film journey. And without further ado, it's Mind Your Head by Marvin Lim.
Sometimes I have these sounds in my head. It's just there. Sometimes I still think about you. Sometimes I still hope things wouldn't end how it did. It's painful, but we learn to live with it. I don't get what the meaning of life is anymore. I remember the times we shared our most deepest secrets. The times we could be vulnerable, but also safe. I miss them. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost, that they're lost, there's no disaster. The art of losing is not too hard to master, though it may look like it. Write it like disaster.
Hey Maisura, thank you so much for making it down for today's interview session, and we are so happy that your film, My Hereafter, is part of this year's First Shots. Do you mind giving me a synopsis of your film?
Yeah, I don't mind giving you a synopsis of my film. So basically the poem is about the relationship between two people and how there's some distance that grew between them and how they try to reconcile or build a bridge between that. But so basically I decided to make a story about how after her mother's death, the daughter decided to travel back in time to visit her mother's childhood as a way to kind of learn more about the mother, since she didn't get to do that while she was alive. So I decided to, with the poem's theme of distance and separation, I tried to use that for my film in a way where the daughter tries to become closer to the mother by learning more about her childhood. So that was what my film was about.
How did it feel like working individually to produce your poetry film?
It felt good because I have a very specific way of doing things, and in a group it was easier for me to have my own creative direction, and it's not always easy to convey your idea to others. It was freeing basically to be able to do that.
All right, thank you so much for sharing with me your insights about your poetry film journey. And without further ado, it's My Hereafter by Maisura Begum.
Hi dear, here's a box of your mom's things. Again, I'm sorry for your loss. All of a sudden, you stopped in the middle of the road, taking your hand away from mine, and turning back, leaving by the opposite direction. The Big Bang and the law of the cosmos begins where everything is moving apart from everything else. In my heart, there's only a sigh. Looking at the sky, I thought, how far is that? Far, but not more than the distance between us. Thousands of miles and more, as far as 2 planets. Far from my sight. Now I cannot speak with you, go towards you, touch you. You are far away from me. This long distance between us, this distance cannot be measured by any scale.
Hi, Constance.
Hi.
We are so glad to have your film enter my space in this year's First Shot. And I would just like to ask, what was the vision and message for your film?
The vision and message of my film, it was basically about showing how your self-worth is not equivalent to what you produce or the amount of output you get. And in my film, this would be based on your academic results. It shows how intense competition can be unhealthy, especially when you really put yourself beside another to compare your achievements based on rankings and whatnot. Because my film shows that there is this healing progression from that to move away from such negative thinking of always comparing yourself to just accepting yourself for who you are, what you can achieve, and that you are not what your numbers say you are.
So, what was some things that you learned while producing your film?
This was actually my first time creating a video and animation as well. There was a lot that I underestimated in terms of the time taken to produce each image, because I didn't have a drawing pad or anything like that, so I just used my keypad to illustrate everything. And every different scene would take me about 30 minutes to an hour, so I really had to properly plan out my time so that I could manage with all of the work I was given.
So thank you so much, Constance, for sharing with us your poetry film journey. And without further ado, this is Enter My Space by Constance Erin.
There once was this tiny sparrow down in sorrow and so fragile. She wanted to learn and grow, to be free was her greatest desire. And she went out for some adventures. She met some demure friends with flamingos full of glamour, enjoying the sunset, feeling pink. As she admired their beauty and confidence as they stood tall, ready to defend the territory they chose to stay in. Brave fighters. They are strong, she must say. She wanted to be their friend. And mingle to learn more from them. But the flamingos gave her a scary stare that made her tremble in fear. A white swan came by with a friendly smile, approaching the tiny sparrow. With a warm flap of her wings to calm her feelings. From what the swan did, she felt a warm welcome. She forgot the fear from the start, and hope arose too, as she too flapped her tiny wings.
Hey Rachel, thank you so much for making it for today's interview session, and we are so happy that your film Death's Distance is part of this year's First Shots. How did it feel like working individually to produce your poetry film?
For me personally, I enjoyed working individually because for me, I was able to have my film be more personal. So if we were working as a team, I would not be able to make the film more personal to me. So it was what I envisioned it to be. So for me, working individually was kind of an advantage. Yeah.
The next question is, what were some of the challenges that you faced during your filmmaking process?
Okay, the challenges that I faced were like, how am I going to get the shot? Like, okay, there's this hospital scene that I was supposed to film, but because of COVID, you can't really enter the hospitals or like you can't visit like patients and stuff like that. So you just have to like try your best to like do a makeshift hospital, something like that, like a fake hospital scene. So one of the challenges is like location, like really hard to go to like locations where it's restricted. And another, a funny challenge that I faced during the filming process is that, there's the scene where there's blood. Okay, we filmed it at a little bit of a high level. So when we were washing down the blood, right, it just get worse. It was like becoming even more like bright red as we like washed it. And it's like going down the stairs all the way to like the lower level. So we just had to clean like a lot of space. So yeah, that was one challenge that was so dumb. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing with me your insights about your poetry film journey. And without further ado, it's Death's Distance by Rachel Ho.
All of a sudden, you stopped in the middle of the road, taking your hand away from mine and turning back, leaving by the opposite direction. The Big Bang and the law of the cosmos begins where everything is moving apart from everything else. In my heart, there's only a sigh. Looking at the sky, I thought, how far is that? Far, but not more than the distance between us. Thousands of miles and more, as far as 2 planets, far from my sight. I cannot speak with you, go towards you, and touch you. You're far away from me. This long distance between us. This distance cannot be measured by any scale.
Hey Kai, thank you so much for making it for the interview session, and we are so happy to have your film Quilting as part of this year's First Shots. Do you mind giving me a synopsis of your film?
Okay, the synopsis of it is basically using quilting as a metaphor for chasing down your dreams, where there's this main character, John, who's played by me, and he wants to be a filmmaker, but he is constantly pressured to follow the typical path of someone in Singapore doing well in studies and getting a stable job. But he then figures out that it's really not what he enjoys doing. So he steps out of his comfort zone, picks up the needle and thread, and starts to sew his dreams together, which is to become a filmmaker.
I see. Oh, that's really an interesting concept of using a metaphor to represent chasing down your dreams and finding your passion in life. That's really, very interesting. All right, the next question I would like to ask you is, what was the most enjoyable moment throughout making your whole poetry film?
I would say the most enjoyable moment throughout the making of it was just experimenting with the lighting, because that was something that I rarely had control over, because I was usually working with a bunch of other people and shooting in a public space where the only real source of lighting was just sunlight, which was something that I'm not very good at. But in this case, I got to shoot it in my living room, where I could control everything about the lighting. And I think lighting being one of the key aspects of filmmaking, it was really fun to be able to have everything in control and to light up the whole scene perfectly to match the mood of the story.
Thank you so much for sharing me your insights about your poetry film journey. And without further ado, it's Quilting by Lim Yen Kai.
Happiness cannot be stitched to a quilt. Loose threads on the reverse reveal, well, a mess. Pink peonies never reach full bloom, butterflies are silent, pinned to an orange sky. The phoenix rises from the ash but never flies out of the cloth. All depend on the whim of a needle in the hand of a man once in love, with an unspoken fear. The cord he was tied to will soon be undone. When quilting, one has a tale, a forethought of heaven or hell, with auspicious symbols from past lovers, to share with those not yet at death's threshold.
I know you want to be a filmmaker, but you gotta be more realistic, alright?
Who will care to look and find joy in glossy starlings, rewriting patterns across a grey sky, cotton kissing morning dew where love used to be. Take up the needle, John. Stitch that cord of dreams for which you suffer. That, too, is an escape.
Thank you to all the filmmakers for sharing your experiences with us. And now I'll pass the time back to Ganga.
Thank you, Martin and Rachel, for your time. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have for this year's For Shots 5. Once again, congratulations to all our selected filmmakers. Continue to rise above, inspire people, and produce such films. We would also like to give special mention to all our DATM department students from Stagecraft Audio, the lecturer Mr. Do Min Chuan, and the students from the AVMP who helped us set up this event. Last but not least, before we end off, this event and the past few months of hard work and dedications would have not been possible without our First Shots crews and lecturers. I think it's time to give our proper introductions. Come in, guys. This year, we consist of six student bodies. However, one couldn't make it. But it's okay, we will all introduce ourselves. First up, we have our one and only graphic designer for this year's First Shots 5. Alright. Here we have our editor, our assistant editor, who did a wonderful job doing our trailers and representing us as First Shots 5. Here we have Martin, our marketing assistant, who helped us throughout these IG stories and helped our selected filmmakers to shine on his own. Here we have our assistant editors as well. They are all under Adlin, who sadly couldn't make it for our event. But still, as First Shots 5, as members of 5, we are still able to give you, we are still hopefully be able to give you the event that you desire. As much as we are a student-led team, this event, this whole operations couldn't have been made possible without our mentors and lecturers, Mr. Zhang and Ms. Jen. Please welcome them.
Hi. I think it's a real pleasure. I think I'm really proud of the selection of films that was in the selection this year. I think a lot of them were really imaginative, a lot of really amazing works. I think it's a privilege for all of us in this team to be part of this, to be presenting the budding works of these amazing filmmakers in their budding years. So I think to make films, to tell stories, this is a privilege, and it's also our privilege to be presenting these works to you. So remember, keep making films and rise above, man.